Good morning, everyone. Morning. It's quite a large audience, this. And quite a cocktail, really. Different people. So, let me start off, because I'm actually going to take you on a bit of a journey. I'm going to share with you lots of different things that we've done. Lots of things that have worked well. Quite a lot of things that haven't worked well as well. Okay? I think that in education there's lots of similarities. There's lots of things that happen that can be shared and people can actually learn from. So for me, context is first of all really important. So my background is really as a chemistry teacher. I've taught chemistry in this school for the last 11 years. 3 years after that, I was part of the leadership team, so part of the senior leadership team around the change that I'm going to speak to you about. And very recently, I've just been appointed the CEO of this particular organization, where we're now beginning to expand schools and look at the organization of learning and actually share our philosophy with other organizations as well. But first of all, one thing that you will notice in this is things are very different. And there has been a lot of change. But there's one thing that has been significantly different. And for me, this particular statement is actually quite powerful. Because in any organization, you have two kinds of people. You have those people that have belief, and they really want to make a difference in terms of what they're doing. And then we have people with interest. So people with interest will also change, but they change because my boss told me to do this. Or this is my job, and if I don't do it, I'll get into trouble. So for me, the big focus and the most important word on this particular statement is this word, you know? And this is kind of quite key for me. Because if you are able to change belief, then behavior automatically changes. So let me just kind of pause on that statement, because it sounds really philosophical. And I'm going to give you some real examples around this as well. So just think about that for a moment. Quite often in education, we want people to change their behavior, right? We tell people, you can do this, you can't do this, you're allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, and so on. We call them rules. We do that for our students as well. But if we have the ability to change someone's belief, then behavior automatically changes. And this is true for our students as well. If we can inspire our students, and we can change their belief about what they can achieve, then actually their behavior changes. You suddenly see a student that wasn't performing, that is performing, that wasn't completing tasks, that is completing tasks. It's a shift in mindset. Last year has been quite interesting for me. I kind of traveled to lots of different countries. I took a sabbatical, you know. So I'm actually from Bolton. I was born there. I've lived there all my life. This school that I'm speaking about is the school that my parents went to. It's also the school that they made sure I didn't go to. We all know about those schools, right? It's the school that's not performing. It's the school that many people in the community have never been to, but the reputation precedes it. You do not want to send your children there. So I actually went to school the other side of town, which is where the same school as Jeff went to. But look, my travels took me to a lot of different places. I think I covered about 40 to 50 different countries last year. Some places that I went to, I was kind of expecting to see what I saw. And some places that I went to, they really took me by surprise. One of the places that I actually went to was actually Kenya. Okay? I went there as part of a charity project. We flew into Nairobi. There was kind of another 2-hour flight after that. We went to a place called Kisumu. And then from there, we drove 2 hours, very bumpy road, to a school. And we arrived at this school in the morning. There's over 1,000 students. There's only 3 classrooms. Most of the students, they come to school and they walk. It's in a remote part of Kenya. And when these students come to school, on that particular day that we were there, they had a clinic that was running. And this clinic was treating the feet of the children that come to that school. So there were no classes happening that day. Now, most of the students, they come to school and they walk. But this doesn't happen because they're walking. This is happening because they don't wear shoes and there's a particular kind of infection that affects their feet. So some charity organizations have got together. Once a month they run this clinic and they apply medicine, and it's really painful. The children are there and they're crying and their families are in holding the children as well and so on, and it was kind of quite a shocking kind of atmosphere. But this happens every month. So I said to the head teacher that surely to solve this problem, and you've got so many charities working with you, surely this is about providing shoes for children. And he kind of laughed and he said, you know, we've run so many projects where we've given out shoes to children. He said we even had one company that invented this shoe that grows with the child. So you can get a shoe when you're like 5 years old, and as you turn into an adult, you can adjust the shoe from all shapes and sizes, and it actually still fits, and it works. But there was a problem. What the head teacher said to me was, the children don't want to wear shoes. It's uncomfortable. It's not what they used to. When they play football, they take off their shoes, they lose them. They don't see the point. So one of the things that we started there, from our school, we took some old iPads. And you have to understand, this is an environment, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no internet, electricity runs for a few hours a day, and so on. But we preloaded the iPad. There's an app called Book Creator. You may be familiar with it. It's dead easy to use. You can take pictures, you can take videos, you can put text in there, and it turns it into a book. So on that day, some of these teachers were given iPads, and they took pictures of these children. I took this photograph, but they took similar kind of photographs. They took videos of children crying. They were doing interviews with children. How did this feel? And the child saying, oh, this was really painful, and I don't want to do this again. They interviewed the nurses, the doctors. They kind of took pictures of very scary instruments that they were using on the children's feet and so on, and they made this book. The title of the book, Why I Should Wear Shoes. So the teachers now tell me that we're doing workshops with the children. You know, we're showing them these videos, we're showing them different things. Suddenly, the children are now saying, I want to wear shoes. You change belief, you change behavior. And this is key. I think this is true in education. I think this is true in life. The ability to change someone's belief is a very powerful thing. And as teachers in the classroom, this is a power that we possess. We possess the tools to make this happen. Another place that I went to. Very interesting. I went to this place. Okay? This place is called Greenland. Somebody got the name wrong. Because when I landed there, the first thing they told me, so this is a school. This is kind of summer. Okay? Remember, I'm from the UK. And one thing they told me is there are no trees on Greenland. It's actually a type of desert. So I was called there because they were getting lots of different teachers from many different places all over Greenland together because we were talking about the design of learning. And one thing that we've done at Essa Academy over the last 3 years we focus on the design of learning. Technology is important, but it's a tool. We focus very much on how we can make learning better. And they were really interested in the tools that we were using because we have the ability to design learning where even if students don't have a connection to the internet, they can still access their learning. And because the people of Greenland want to preserve their culture and their tradition, they want to embed that within their curriculum to be able to tell stories of their ancestors and so on, and they want to be able to design learning in this way. So we had a project, and I was kind of speaking to teachers, and it was kind of fascinating listening to teachers. And you're speaking to a head teacher, and 10 minutes into the conversation, you realize that there's only 5 students in the whole school. Another head teacher kind of saying that, you know, my school was closed for 3 months suddenly last year because a polar bear had wandered into town. And it was unsafe, and we had to call somebody to come and shoot the polar bear, you know, before the children could actually turn up to school. Different kinds of problems, okay? So we spent a lot of time on the idea of designing learning, and this was kind of quite important for us. But one thing we've learned, and this is key, technology is a great tool, and there's lots of things that have been written about technology and education. Quite often saying that it doesn't have much impact. So a lot of John Hattie's work, for example, looks at the impact of technology, but it's looking at technology that was used in the 80s and the 90s, you know, computer rooms and laptop trolleys. We all know about those laptop trolleys. Do you know what I mean? Those laptop carts? Every teacher in the world knows about those, yeah? Because that's a beautiful example of belief and behavior. Let me explain. I'm a teacher. I've just had an argument with my colleague because I want the laptop cart for the next lesson. Been there? So now I've got the laptop cart. I'm feeling very good. I've got I won. But the belief is, I know there's at least 3 in here that are not going to work. And then when we open up the laptops, some people might not connect to the internet. And then some of my students have forgotten their password. Okay? Becomes a logistical nightmare. So what we're doing is we've created a belief, and because this is the same thing that we're experiencing over and over again, what happens is we've created this belief that this might not work. So behavior, I'll print bits of paper just in case. Okay? Belief, behavior. But look, one thing that we've learned. In 2008, I got rid of all the laptop trolleys from my school. And for one laptop trolley, I could have 180 iPod touches. This was before iPads and tablets. iPod touch, people familiar with that? Yeah, it's like a mobile phone, but without the phone part. You could email, take pictures, videos, you could browse the net. It's basically like a digital pencil case. So we gave 900 to all students. We just stopped buying trolleys. And one thing we learned, technology can be simple. And technology can be reliable. And in order to change belief, those 2 ingredients are very, very necessary. If you want to change the belief of people, things have to be simple and they have to be reliable. Simplicity and reliability is key. Now, actually, going from complicated to simple is really difficult. Even more so for teachers, because it's easier to leave things as complicated. And when you go from complicated to simple, it means we have to get rid of things. And teachers are not good at getting rid of things. Examples. Evidence. You walk into the head teacher's room, and there's files there that still go back to 2005, just in case I need it. Every single person in this room has this very special USB stick with all their stuff on there. If that suddenly disappeared, you guys would stop sleeping. Okay? We work on a document. We don't push the save button. We push the save as button. Make another version. Okay? That's teachers. We need to go from complicated to simple. We need to get rid of things that we don't need anymore. You know, one evening I came home and I had my iPad with me and I'm kind of browsing the web and all that sort of stuff. You know, just sat at home in the evening. I've got a 1-year-old at home. Okay? And quite often, you know, he tries to play with my iPad and I always take it away from him because I think he's going to break it. But one evening I came along and I kind of, you know, tapped the camera app and turned it around, and suddenly I see this 1-year-old using this iPad. I kind of recorded it on my phone, like a video. I put it on Instagram, and I'm going to share it with you guys, only 30 seconds long. But have a look at this guy. He's 1, and he's using my iPad. Come on, Smokey. Switch the camera on. We got sound? Good boy. Come on, Smokey. Switch the camera. Good boy. Take a picture. Good boy. Yeah, I can do selfies as well, right? So this was completely like, you know, not planned, yeah? So that's Smokey, he's 1. I come home, I turn my iPad around, I tap the camera icon. I don't know why I did that, I just did that. And suddenly I can see him moving his head from one side to the other because there's another parrot that he sees now. And his life is completely different now. Okay? I put my iPad there. He's not interested in any app except for the camera app. And I'm thinking this isn't going to work because beaks can't work with iPads. He proves me wrong and he figures out that if he uses his tongue, it works. If I move the app somewhere else, he finds it. If I swipe and there's no app, then he starts going a bit crazy. But one thing he doesn't do anymore is that he doesn't bite my iPad, you know? I'm not worried that he's going to break it. He's always looking for the app. I'll argue his beliefs have changed, his behavior's changed as well. Let me tell you a bit more about our school. So look, right at the beginning, you saw a beautiful image of our school, and that's the school right now. We never started there. This journey began in an environment that was actually not that great, okay? And this particular kind of environment was actually here. This is where we started off. This doesn't inspire belief, okay? It doesn't inspire belief, but this is the school where I worked in 10 years, 11 years. 1 year, the whole roof blew off. We're a government school. We're state funded. We don't select our students. There are no fees or anything. We work like any other government school in the UK. So therefore, we had to go through this whole new schools building program, and I was kind of, you know, involved in that in a great deal, and we've kind of designed a new school based around the kind of learning environment. But let me give you some context first of all. So this school had lots of issues. In Bolton, in my town, this was known as the failing school. There are 18 schools in Bolton. Our results are kind of published. Usually we're kind of second, third from the bottom. You know, it's the school that you don't want to send your children to. Lots and lots of issues. And we had to do things that were different. Let me give you some kind of demographics. So this is kind of national data I'm going to share with you now. So this is our locality. And this is what kind of drives the people that work in our school. You know, this is a map from the local kind of council, local municipality. The darker the area, the more deprived the community is. The lighter the area, the more affluent the community is. And the circles that you see right in the middle, that's where our school is. 80% of our students come from 10 to 15% of the most deprived areas in the UK, measured by different indices. So this is not a well-off school. We have 46 different languages that are spoken in our school. We have the highest number of international new arrivals. So at the moment, lots of Syrian students coming in. Refugees, students that are coming with issues other than learning. Learning is not their priority. They don't know where their parents are. You know? They've had trauma, there's all sorts of other things going on. One thing that this is, I've extracted this data from a report. One thing that this report tells us, if you live in this part of town, you live in that part of town, on average, you will live 8 years less compared to somebody that lives in the more affluent part of town. That's a significant number. So look, in order to change this, we've needed to do things differently. We get a lot of visitors that come to our school from all over the world. Okay? People want to come and see, what does the learning look like? What are you doing with maths? What are you doing with art? What are you doing with languages and so on? This is a big theme. So we get people that come, we hold events and so on. Quite often they ask this question, that you're a state-funded school, you have over 1,000 students, how have you managed to afford an iPad for every student? Because we've not used any extra money. So for me, that's an easy question to answer. Because if I take one student, and I look at how much photocopying we do for one student over 3 years, it's cheaper to buy an iPad. And that's just photocopying. We're not talking about email and videoing and other resources that are incorporated within this device. Of course, systems have to change. You can't carry on doing the same thing. And we've had to do that. But that's the easy answer. But there is something that's really expensive. Something that actually costs education a lot of money. And for me, this is the most expensive thing in education. I would say that actually these are the 6 most expensive words in education. Just carrying on doing the same thing. And I think events like this provide opportunities to look at different things. The demise of our last school and the failure of our last school was because it was, I worked there for 10 years. Beautiful environment, lovely, nice people. Everybody was comfortable. Why? We did the same thing every day. Same systems, same processes. The world had moved on, we hadn't. So things needed to change. We operate in an environment that is significantly different now, in all sorts of ways. And we had to create this change, And we did a variety of different things. So there's some circles that are going to come up. They're not in any order. I could probably spend a whole day on each circle, but I'm going to give you a very quick snapshot of each bit. So one of the first things we focused on was building community. Okay? And this is all about relationships. If you have the ability and the means of making a good relationships, good things happen. And we needed to build good community and good links with our local community, with teachers and so on. So we had this big question. How do you start a good relationship? That sounds like a book, right? So we had lots of discussions. We should do this, we should do that, and so on. Actually, it came down to one thing for us. To start a good relationship, we need good food. And if you think about that, it's actually true. So that's where we started. We advertised for a chef in school. I don't know about what you know about UK schools and meals, okay? It's not always the best experience. So we went out to restaurants and so on, and we advertised for a chef. I think in our minds we were thinking, We're going to have like a Jamie Oliver kind of guy that's going to come in, you know. We never got a Jamie Oliver. We have got a chef, and he's really good, but he's probably more Gordon Ramsay than Jamie Oliver, you know. But hey, look, that's where we started. It's got nothing to do with technology, right? It's to do with relationships and people. We put one thing in place. Everybody eats in the same place. Nobody eats in their departments and different areas. Everybody eats in the restaurant area. The caretaker, the cleaner, the teacher, the students. There's no tables that are allocated. You can sit anywhere. Guess where our best ideas come from? Guess where the highest amount of creativity comes from? It comes from the restaurant area, not in meetings. I think meetings is a place where we go to do our emails. And I think I figured out why it's called the boardroom. But look, next thing we had to really look at was this thing. And this is key. How do we secure accountability? Easiest thing to do, give iPads to everyone. Harder thing to do, what are we doing with these things? So for me, I mean, I kind of describe it like this, and I'm going to tell you a story. Story I heard a long time ago. And it's about a man, he lives in a village in India. And one day he leaves the village and he goes to the city. Why? He wants to know what's new in the city. All the new stuff comes in the city. And when he gets there, he sees something pretty amazing. Really takes him back. He sees this device. It's stuck into the wall. And when you twist it at the top, water comes out. He thinks this is phenomenal. Twist it the other way, water stops. So he decides to buy one of these things. Takes it back to his village, gathers all the people, and guess what he tells them? Your life's going to change now. You're not going to believe this thing. Yeah? No more buckets, ropes, forget all of that. He gets this device, sticks it into the wall, twists, and nothing happens. For me, I see these things like taps. You can give one to everyone. You can put them out in the thousands. The good stuff comes if your plumbing is in place. And securing accountability is about your plumbing. And I don't mean plumbing in terms of Wi-Fi and connectivity. Okay, you could argue that's part of the plumbing. Your plumbing is about the design of your learning. What does your learning look like? Because the way you design learning for an environment where every student has one of these is very different from the way in which you design learning where a student is just using pen and paper. Pen and paper is important. Believe me when I say that this isn't about getting rid of pen and paper. That has to happen. But this thing allows us to do things that we were unable to do before. If I'm giving this out to all the students and all I'm asking is to type up an assignment and send it back to me, could have done that with a pen and paper. If I'm giving this out to a student and they could solve a problem and record their voice and explain what they are thinking, and I can send that to a teacher, and my teacher can report back to me and mark it not just with annotations, but with their voice and give me human feedback. That's now allowing us to do things that we couldn't do before. My workshop this afternoon, I'll be showing that. Okay? So we've designed our learning around that. So securing accountability is important. We use the iTunes U platform. 2 reasons. Simplicity, reliability. That's it. No servers, no usernames, no passwords, no technicians that may not speak our language, okay? No filling in forms, none of that stuff. Teacher makes the stuff, goes out to the student. It pings and tells them, you've got a new lesson. Another reason why we use it, it's a global platform. Students will continue to use that after they leave school. Another reason why we use it, MIT, Oxford, Cambridge, all these guys are putting content on there. We want our students to aspire to that, and they do. So lots of reasons why we went down that route. But we had to change things. We need to develop people. This is about changing mindsets. In the UK, traditionally we have 5 training days or 6 training days in a year. What we've done, we've had to change that model. If we want change, we have to change what we're doing. We have to think differently. So the biggest fear amongst teachers is, I don't know what I'm doing. What about training? What's going to happen about professional development and so on? So what we did was we took those 6 days, put them together. We took 2 hours and we've added 2 hours every week. So every week we have professional development. This isn't about meeting times. This isn't about lectures. This is about teachers getting together and talking about the design of learning. So for example, one week we may focus on higher order thinking. What is higher order thinking? Why is it important? How do we get higher order thinking into art, into maths, into sports, into our lessons? Actually, there's an app that helps higher order thinking. It's an app called iMovie. You can video before, you can video after, put it together, play them both side by side, ask an open-ended question, what do you think? Compare, contrast. Bloom's taxonomy, you're hitting the higher order stuff. We don't have lessons on how do I use this app. It's pedagogy first, and that's key. So we have this, and it's a weekly session where people get together and they design learning. We've had to manage processes. Can't carry on doing the same things. There's huge amounts of efficiencies that we can gain. And we want to collect the innovation that happens. So what have we done? Typically a school structure looks like this. There's somebody at the top, deputy principals, principals, middle leaders, then you have teachers in the classroom that are doing amazing stuff. Best ideas happen here with teachers. And if a teacher at the bottom's got a really great idea, usually they talk about it with another teacher next to them. This worked really well. Usually it doesn't go up to the person at the top. So what we've done is we've given teachers the freedom to be able to connect with whoever they want to. And they can share their ideas in different departments and different places. Those people trial it out. They check for simplicity and reliability. If it's simple and reliable, and somebody else is saying it as well, and other people are saying it as well, then actually, in our weekly sessions, we share that with everyone. And if everybody's kind of doing it and coming back, and we get this whole kind of, critical mass of people saying this is really good, it becomes process. Let me give you a very simple example. Monday morning, we see a big lineup of teachers at the photocopier. Okay, I need to get all my printing done for the week. One of the teachers discovered early on that actually this thing, if I use the camera on the back and I've got a document and I take a picture on my iPad, the quality is good enough, I can upload it onto iTunes U, all my students have got it. He shares that with another department and another department. They did it 10 times, it worked. They did it 15 times, it worked. They've been doing it for 6 months, it's working. It's reliable, it's simple. They then share it with everybody else is doing it, it becomes process. This is what we do. That's a technology example. There's lots of other examples as well. But the ability to collect your innovation is actually really quite key. So look, moving on. Vision. And we've had to secure our vision. Okay? So this isn't just about having vision, it's about securing it and everything tying into that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a video now. It's about 2 minutes long. Unfortunately, you're going to see 2 of me on stage because the one's going to appear on there as well. Okay? But what I want you to reflect on is the student perspective and the teacher perspective of the kind of learning experience the students are getting around iTunes U. Just have a look at this.
In 2008, we started a program that was actually very unique, possibly first in the country, where we gave all our students an iPod Touch. In 2015, we've come such a long way in the way in which we use these devices now, because for one, all our students now use iPads and they can access all their lesson materials and content through a platform called iTunes U.
Teachers upload all of the learning, all of the lesson content, all types of creative content onto iTunes U.
I think that the technology gives you independence because you don't have to always rely on the teacher.
I think it takes the lid off learning. So students are not only able to learn when they're there with you in the classroom, we can set them prior learning tasks. They arrive in our lesson with the knowledge of the key content. That means we can spend the time in the lesson extending and deepening learning and asking them to use higher order thinking skills.
I basically have 24-hour access to all of my learning tools, all my revision tools. Every lesson that I've done throughout the whole year, it's all there, so that'll probably impact my grades a lot.
We're moving students away from having secretarial type skills to having more CEO type skills. So it's no longer just word processing, and working on spreadsheets and so on, but the students are having the ability to be able to create, plan, present, problem solve.
I think it's also changed the professional culture amongst teachers because we plan these learning journeys together. So we're making sure that whatever teacher you have for your subject, you're getting access to the absolute highest quality lessons that can be produced by a team.
My parents can look through it and it engages them as well when we're looking through our tutor courses. They tell me that they'd want to be back at school now, with some of the technology that we have.
Parents can see exactly what their children are learning at school. So instead of asking, have you got any homework, they can just look at the iTunes U learning journey. We'll be able to see exactly what your children are learning here and be able to communicate with teachers really at the click of a button.
Okay, so that's just a quick snapshot around the school. This has been kind of really quite key for us in many ways because we have teachers that now plan together. So any courses that are delivered, they are delivered as a team. Okay? There's not one teacher planning everything. It's the best possible content that the department, that teacher, and their colleagues and that team can create. It's a joint effort that happens. Our vision is very simple. It's 3 words. It used to be something that was really complicated and nobody understood. It's all and will and succeed. It's not can, it's not may or might, it's will. And success is about results. We've got to get good results. That's important. But success is also about preparing our students for that world that doesn't exist, for words that haven't been invented, for jobs that haven't been created. For me, and I said this in the video as well, it's a shift. It's a shift away from secretarial skills towards CEO skills. So what do I mean by that? Secretarial skills are important. Students are kind of typing in numbers into spreadsheets, they're typing up documents and so on. The CEO skills are different. It's about the ability to speak and be articulate. It's about being able to present. It's about using a variety of different tools and choosing the best tools to get your ideas across to people. It's about leading. And I think that those kind of qualities can be built into the rigor of learning. And whether it's a small task that a student does in your classroom and they have to present it to an audience in the classroom, it's beginning to build confidence. It's beginning to get them to stand up and speak to different people. It's getting them to think about what tools they're going to use to present. Okay? So we want academic rigor. We want students to continue learning. But we're now designing these new skills into there and how they actually do it. And the mobility element with the devices that they're using and the tools that they've got means they don't always have to sit in the classroom anymore. They can go out. They can study in the best possible places that they need to for that particular episode of learning. So this has kind of been quite key for us. I'm just going to kind of talk about one more thing and then I'll bring things to an end. But this is just food for thought. We've designed teaching and learning and assessment around the idea of access. I'll apply a UK example. You can kind of work out your own numbers. In the UK, we have to be open 192 days in a year. And a student will sit in front of a teacher approximately 4 hours a day. In total, that works out to 10 to 12% of the whole year, and that's it. If we have the ability and the tools for students to continue accessing that learning in a very simple and reliable way, and parents are aware of that as well, we've seen that 12% grow to 20%, 25%, because actually learning does not stop at home anymore. It continues outside. And we've seen that happen. We've seen the levels of engagement increase. I'm not talking about going to a desktop computer and logging into a portal and blah, 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 and so on. We're not talking about that. We're talking about teacher posts a lesson and it pops up and is telling the student, you need to complete this. And the students can record their voice, make a video, blah, 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 very quickly and send things back. And it's simple and it's reliable. That increases the levels of engagement that we've seen. But there's a problem. And the problem is around mindset. Because when I was first looking at this, I was looking at the impact of technology in education. And in 2008, when I first started looking at the iPods and so on, I couldn't find a lot of research around this. There wasn't very many schools in the world that were kind of doing this. I found one university in the States, Abilene Christian University at the time, that was doing a similar sort of project. So then I decided to hit Google and start searching for images. And I typed in 19th century surgery. And when you type in 19th century surgery, this is what you get. It's like surgery in somebody's kitchen. Yeah? And this guy at the door always freaks me out. Don't know what his job is, I can't put it. If you type in 21st century surgery, lots of images come up. Guess what? It's completely different. For all sorts of reasons. But one thing that you can see is the impact that technology has had on surgery. It's not translated surgery, it's redefined surgery. It's allowing surgery to do things that it couldn't do before. If I was to take this surgeon from here, transport him through time and put him here, he would think this is magic. Some form of sorcery going on here. How can somebody's insides be up there? It doesn't make sense. Then you do the same comparison with education. 19th century classroom, learning, and so on. This is what we see, right? Sitting in rows, a bit like this room. There's a teacher at the front giving instruction to these kids, saying something. When I typed in 21st century classroom learning and so on, I'm still on Google Images, lots of images came up. But there was one on the top row that really kind of caught my eye. And it was this one. The other images were just nicer furniture. Okay? It was just nicer chairs, nice tables, and so on. And this is the thing in education. We are very good at doing the wrong things really well. Let me give you an example. So if I was to take that teacher from this classroom 100 years later and put them in this room, they could just carry on teaching. And our kind of progress in terms of technology, I used to use the chalkboard, and then somebody one day came along and said to me, guess what, we can use whiteboards now. And you don't get chalk on the floor, and you can use this marker that just wipes off. We can use different colors as well. Then somebody came along and said, hey, you seen this interactive whiteboard? So now it's digital, it comes through a projector, you know? So we went from chalkboard, to whiteboard, to interactive whiteboard, okay? And the teacher has gone from kind of, I used to make my worksheets with a pencil and a ruler and kind of draw things out. Then somebody introduced me to Microsoft Word. So now I've got my worksheet and I've made exactly the same thing on Microsoft Word, but because the writing all looks uniform, wow, it looks beautiful, really nice. Then the PowerPoint revolution happened. Now I've got the same worksheet, but my words can come flying in from left and right, up and down, and so on. You know? And we feel that proud. We translated, we haven't redefined. Two very different things. Technology allowing us to do things that we couldn't do before, that needs to be incorporated in the design of our learning. And things change. Believe me, things change. You could be in a classroom now that's significantly different. Okay? If I took that teacher from 100 years and put them here, they would actually think this is some form of magic. How are you able to see yourself again and again? You know? And this is stuff that we have in our homes. We're using consumer technology. This isn't something specially made for schools. This is stuff you buy in a shopping mall now. And that's what we've done in our school. We've only put technology in that you can buy from a shopping mall. Okay? But a student can now record and watch themselves and analyze and critically analyze themselves. Students can record their voices and do that again and again. Changes things. The environment suddenly kind of changes. And this is really kind of quite key for us, you know? The way we design learning spaces can be significantly different. Okay? And I think you saw this room in the video. But again, there's no front of the room. You can sit in circles, you can sit on the floor, you can sit on chairs, you can talk. Okay? It completely changes the environment. So for us, this has been kind of significantly different. And I think, you know, this has had significant impact on what we do. Of course, results are important. And we've seen things change. Quite often we get asked the question, have your results increased because you've given iPads out? No, iPads are just taps. But we've changed the plumbing, okay, significantly. And that's seen impact. Okay? Beyond that, I mean, our finance guy, he loves this slide, yeah? Because look, and if your finance guy sat here looking at this slide as well thinking, oh, this looks good, okay? But for me, this isn't about money. This tells me that beliefs have changed, so therefore behavior's changed. And this is kind of an impact of that. 70% reduction on photocopying. Because it's just easier to take a picture and post it. I don't need to come and wait there. You know, teachers are expert photocopiers, right? I've seen teachers fix photocopy machines, open up things from different places, pull papers out from here and there. Yeah, you also get that crazy thing that happens. You go to a printer, 30 sheets of paper come out, they don't belong to anyone. You had that? It doesn't belong to anyone, okay? So all that craziness around printing and paper, you know, some schools you walk into, there's one room just for toner cartridges, top to bottom, okay? So these sorts of kind of change significantly. So I think, look, you know, overall, it's been kind of a powerful kind of environment for us. We've seen lots of change, and things will continue to change because the world changes. One thing we can agree is that whatever we're doing now, we've probably got it wrong. What we need to do is get it less wrong. We'll never be right. Things are always changing. Okay? And we have to have the ability to kind of have those discussions. So look, thank you very much for listening. I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Oh. Wait till they quit clapping.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
On behalf of Esol Education, I present to you this gift to...
Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul. And I'm trying to anticipate a problem right now. And as soon as Mr. Abdul started talking about you can come to my session, I'm sure we saw how many people opened their programs, and we saw that I'm sure that you noticed he's in room 220. The problem is I've only got 30 chairs in room 20. So what we're going to do at 11:15 for his session, we're moving his session back here. So if anybody wants to come back, you can come here. All right? Other than that, I am so excited to hear about the discussions you're going to have in your job-alike sessions next. See you in job-alike at 10 o'clock. If you want to come back at 11:15 here, if not, mini sessions. Oh,
Man. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the practicalities of what I spoke about this morning, okay? So this session is really going to focus on the stuff that I was talking about. So actually show you the content that I was kind of referring to. I'll set context to everything that I'm going to show you. I think it's being videoed and recorded anyway because I think some people have gone for Friday prayers and they're probably going to miss this session. So what I would say, it's probably a good idea just to kind of sit back and understand the whole picture of what it looks like, okay? Because if you try and make notes and try and kind of do things at the same time, you may kind of miss context. But look, let me first show you, first of all, maybe you already know this, but you don't, and some of you may not do, but I'll just kind of show you how I'm going to set up. So as you can see, I've got a very messy desktop on my Mac that I'm just mirroring up on there. But what I'm going to do with my iPad, so I've got my sound plugged in, and you could do this in your classroom if you want to. I've got a normal cable on my iPad, just a charging cable, and I'm going to plug that into the Mac. And now, if in the top right, if I just go to search and I type in QuickTime, people are familiar with QuickTime? Yeah? So if I go into this, and I go to File and do New Movie Recording, get a scary picture. But look at this little arrow over here on the side. When I click on this, it says Abdul Chohan's iPad. And you now see my iPad. Okay? Did you know this? Okay. The other thing that I'm also going to do is I'm going to hit on that record and I'm going to use my microphone. You might not be able to see it, but the microphone I'm going to set to my iPad as well. So whatever I say can be recorded into the microphone. I'm not going to, but if I did hit the record button, it will record everything that I do on my iPad and save it like a movie clip. So if I've got a really cool app and I want to record my voice over it, I could just kind of use the app, record my voice, it'll turn it into a little movie clip, and I can make that available for students to see. But I'm doing this for a reason, so you get to see a few things that you wouldn't normally be able to see. There's my kind of iPad. Okay, so let's begin with the iTunes U piece. Okay, so first and foremost, what you're going to see, I'm going to show you a number of different apps. I'm not a believer in using lots and lots and lots of apps. I think that complicates everything. I think people become kind of focused on apps rather than on the design of learning. Okay? I think there are lots of apps that are really beautiful, but I don't know how much impact they have in terms of learning. But then there are other apps that have a big impact on learning, and you can do lots of different things with it. Okay? So, I'm going to show you an app first that's not iTunes U. But I think it's really kind of useful. So if I tap on this, there's an app on there on the second row called Explain Everything. People familiar with that app? A few nodding heads, a few people saying no. I'm going to just go through it, yeah? So Explain Everything. I'm going to tap on this, and it opens up a screen that looks very much like this. And if I tap on the plus on the top left-hand side, it gives me a template of different kind of things that I could actually use. So I'm going to use a white background with a black, red, and blue ink sort of thing. And it brings up a screen that looks a little bit like an interactive whiteboard, but it's on my iPad. Okay? Now, I can do lots of different things here, but I'm going to show you something really quick and really easy. So I've got a record button at the bottom. There's something on the bottom left that says slide. We'll look at that later on. And on the top left-hand side, there's a whole bunch of tools, but one of them looks like a pen, and it's highlighted. Okay? So I spoke with quite a lot of people after my last session, and I spoke to Larry. Where's Larry? There's Larry. I said I'll do a maths example for you, yeah? So here's your maths example. Okay? So I'm going to hit the record button. Nope. Don't say that to me. Okay. So look, I fired up iTunes U, and if I just kind of go back out of there, let me just show you the app. Top left-hand side is the iTunes U app, okay? So this works off the iPad. You can design courses off a Mac. You can design courses off an iPad. You can even design courses off a PC. In order for students to see the course, they will view it on the iPad using iTunes U. If I tap on iTunes U now, something opens up that kind of looks like that. Just give me a minute. There we are. And I'll just start off from the very basics of iTunes U. It looks very much like iBooks. Those things look like books that are on there. But each one of them is not a book. Each one is a course. And it's a course that's been created by our school, by teachers in our school. There are some that are courses that have been designed by other institutions and other organizations. If I tap on featured at the bottom, okay, this is now taking me on the internet. It's taking me kind of online. And what you'll see is a whole bunch of kind of courses that will begin to pop up in a minute. And those are courses that have been made public by lots of different organizations. So MIT, Oxford, Cambridge, a lot of these kind of organizations make their courses available, and people can actually subscribe to them. And people can follow those courses as well. And that comes up kind of on featured. These courses, under my courses, these are courses that are private. So I don't have to worry about copyright. I don't have to worry about where I'm getting my images and videos and all that sort of stuff from. And it's available offline. So if there is no internet, I can still access this content. And that's kind of important. So the whole Greenland stuff was around this. Okay, so once they could make the courses and students have subscribed to it, then they have access to it when it's offline as well. So what have we done? We've got a whole bunch of different courses. So if I just kind of keep that one and I keep it pressed, I'm just going to move that out of the way. And I'm going to tap on this ecology one, and I'm going to move that out of the way. And I'm going to keep hold of this one and move that out of the way. Now look at the top row. So the top row are all real courses that happen at Essa Academy. These are courses that our students subscribe to. We've got a particular naming mechanism that we use. So if you look at each one, the name follows a particular pattern. So we have English, Chile 2, Wicked War. We have the web, Chile 3, The Matrix. Now, That doesn't mean anything to people that are in the audience. English might do, the web possibly, science, languages, yes. But the other stuff doesn't mean anything to you. And that's because what we've done is iTunes U has actually allowed us to be able to create our own kind of nomenclature, our own language. So in the UK, we do GCSEs, and many of your schools will be British curriculum as well. And because we've got 46 different languages that are spoken, and quite often government changes levels and grades and this and that and so on, we've created our own naming system. We take a GCSE course, and we've divided it into 4 modules. So the first module is the really easy one. It's not so hard, it's not so hot, it's 1 chili. Then when you pass that, you go on to module 2, it gets a bit harder. 2 chilies. Then the last module is 3 chilies. So our parents can just look at that and they will understand visually that my child's getting close to exams. So they may not understand the system, they may not understand the whole kind of organization of learning because they've come from a different country, but that nomenclature and that symbolism kind of makes things very easy for them. Then we have something called a certification module. The certification module is a module that the students study that really prepares them for exam. It's very, very exam focused. It's past papers. It's about repetition. It's like the boring part if you want. Okay, but stuff that the students have to do. So that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of how we've named our courses, and we've had to really think about it, and it's an agreement that we've got across school of how we name our courses. So let's look at this one, the war. This one called War, or English. It's an English course. If I tap on it, it pops up and it looks like this. Okay? So look, there's a number of things there. There's some buttons at the bottom: info, posts, notes, and materials. And then there's things on the left-hand side: overview, instructor, outline, and so on. And there's some information right in the middle of the screen. So the stuff that you've got in the middle of the screen is actually overview. And this has been written for parents and students. It's giving you an overview of this course. What is this course actually about? And here we've been able to build in some things. This is what I mean by design. So now we know the literacy is an important part, so we've started to put some books and authors that parents can actually look at and get hold of those books and encourage their children to read. We can do things like this. If I highlight the text and just select this, there's a button that's popped up there that says speak. So it will actually read that out to students. Okay? So if I was to not read the whole thing out, if I just say analytical and I say speak, okay, it gives me different languages. I'm just going to say English.
Analytical.
Okay, so it's kind of read that out. Do people know where that is in the iPad? Yes? No? Yeah? So that's in settings. And you can use that across the iPad anywhere. So we showed this to our students because if there are words that they can't pronounce, they could pronounce it really slowly. There's a feature of speeding it up and slowing it down. If I just come out of this and kind of go to settings, and if I go to general and accessibility, I know I'm going really quick, but I'm just showing you where this is. Under speech, I've got speech selection on. I can change the speaking rate. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I can do around this. So these are sometimes features within the iPad that people don't know what it actually does. So we highlight this. This is really kind of important, especially from a language perspective. I can have different voices and different languages. I could even have different accents. You know? So it kind of covers the Aussies that may be in the room, you know. It doesn't do Kiwi actually, but, you know, it's got a few other kind of dialects and stuff in there. But there's a whole range of stuff in there that you can activate. This is just built in. So if I just kind of go back, then I'll just go back here. If I was to select more of that text, these are small things, but they're important for us. If I hit speak now, watch what happens.
This course will enable you to develop into critical and analytical.
So it's reading and highlighting that word as it goes along. Okay? So that's important. So if you have 30 students in your class, every student has the ability to do this individually. So you're personalizing stuff automatically anyway. Okay, so let me just come out of this. So this is where we write our stuff. Now, I could write this in different languages. You know, I could put this in a variety of different kind of text, whether it's Arabic or Spanish or French. I could use whatever I want, and it will read in that language. Okay? Right. Then what we've got is some information on instructor. So we don't put the names of teachers, we've put the names of the department here. Why? Because teachers come and teachers go. At the end of this year, somebody may move to a different kind of area, different school. But we still want to be able to capitalize on the knowledge and the learning that they had. So therefore, the department always stays the same. The people that are contributing to this course, they can change. Now, it's worthwhile investing in this as a team, because if the teacher moves to a different school or leaves the organization, you can actually copy the course and give them a copy. So they don't lose anything. They can walk away with all this material. So that's really useful. Okay. Then we get to the next part. And really, this is where the detail happens. So it's outline. So outline, I can, you know, there's in education across the world, there's lots of different words for the same thing. So outline is like your long-term plan. It's a list of all your lessons. You might call it your scheme of work. It's a whole of all the things that you're going to cover in this semester. And it's a work in progress, and you can change it. So in our school, we call them learning challenges. So LC1 is learning challenge 1. LC2, learning challenge 2, and so on. Okay? And I'm not going to tap on it now, I'll come back to it. But if I was to tap on learning challenge 1, it will then take me into a different screen where it tells me all the tasks that I've got to complete for learning challenge 1. We'll look at that in a moment. So this particular kind of work, this design, is being done by a team. So the English department has sat around a table and they've said, if we're going to teach them about grammar, if we're going to teach them about verbs, adjectives, if we're going to teach them about story writing, what's the first lesson that we should be teaching them? What's the second thing that we need to cover? And there's a very healthy kind of debate that goes on amongst the teachers, and they come up with a learning journey, a plan that they can put together themselves. So this is not being done by one teacher. Then they will decide. You know, if there's 6 people in the department or 3 people in the department, one teacher will say, well, I'll do the first 3 lessons, somebody else will do the next 3, and so on. So you're now beginning to divide that up. You could actually do this across campuses. So you may have on this course, Learning Challenge 1, 2, and 3 has been planned by some teachers that are in the Cairo campus here, and 4, 5, and 6 is being contributed to by teachers in a different campus in the UAE. You have the ability to edit and change, so it's not kind of set in stone. I'll kind of do questions and answers after people kind of want to ask more things about this, about personalization and so on. But let me just kind of go through the overview. Then what we've done is we've put some information about our organization. So in overview, instructor, and outline is just stuff that's fixed. However, teaching and learning at Essa, external assessment, and rest of it, you can change that. So we've done teaching and learning at Essa. We've talked about key pedagogies that we use for learning. Okay? So higher order thinking, substantive conversation, knowledge as problematic. These are really good examples of good pedagogies that you can use within the classroom and within the design of your courses. So we make that very explicit. Okay? There's information on external assessment. So in this case, this course is internally assessed. But if I was to come out of this course and I go into the web, which is an IT kind of course, let me just go to info here. So similar kind of setup, instructor, outline. But if I go to external assessment here, it's got different information. It's telling parents, students, when the exams are going to be, it's telling them what the course grades are, all that sort of stuff and so on. So it's kind of giving an overview around this. Then there's some information about how we measure learning, some information on the chilly stuff that I kind of explained before. Okay? Does that kind of make sense? Yeah? In terms of how we've arranged things. Okay. Let's go back to outline. So we're in outline now. And I'm going to go to my first learning challenge. So as a student, as I've typed onto my learning challenge, on the left-hand side, I've got a whole bunch of kind of, if I use this video, I can kind of, so all that side, I've got a whole bunch of different learning challenges. Okay? And if I tap on a different learning challenge, on the right-hand side, my tasks change. Learning challenge 3, again, the things on the right-hand side change. But let me just break this down for you. So learning challenge 1. We always have something called prior learning. Prior learning are things that the students will do before they come to the lesson. Sometimes you might call it homework. We call it prior learning. What we don't do is give students 15 questions. Because if they get stuck on question 6, there's nobody there to help them. And it causes frustration, and it impacts on their belief and their ability and how they think about themselves. If they think, I can't do this, then it's a struggle. So what we do with prior learning is we put videos in there. Videos that inspire. Stuff that has questions around it. Things that they can watch again and again and have an opinion on. So in this case, the teachers put a video on. I'll play the video. You'll get an idea. It's something like this.
I was 13 when I first got access to a computer.
My parents bought me a Macintosh in 1984 when I was 8 years old.
I was in 6th grade.
I learned to code in college. Freshman year, first
So it's
semester.
kind of playing the video.
Intro to computer science.
I
I wrote a program to play tic-tac-toe.
I think it was pretty humble beginnings. I think the first program I wrote asked things like, what's your favorite color? Or how old are you?
I first learned how to make a green circle.
I'm just going to pause that. And let me see if it lets me go backwards. Okay. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you that same video, but how it looks on the student iPad. Okay? So just bear with me whilst I connect this, because I think this bit is actually quite important for educators to understand. Okay? So there I am, that's my Mac again. I'm just going to plug that in. File, new movie recording. There I am. So look, I'm going to hit the play button. Okay. Now, volume's off, but not to worry. You can see my iPad the way a student would see it. So if I tap on this, there's a little icon that appears in the top right-hand corner. If I tap on the icon, my video continues to play. And if I tap the pen icon, I can now make notes whilst my video is playing. And I can pause. And I can go back. Okay? Now that ability allows me to set a different kind of task for students. Does that make sense? Okay? Because now I can ask them to watch a video clip and I can kind of say to them, well, now I actually want you to watch this, and how many verbs are being used, for example? Or do you agree with this opinion, or do you not agree with this opinion? You know, what are your thoughts around this, and so on? Well, we also find that with many of our students age 11 to 16 kind of, in that bracket, parents can watch this video with them, and they can have a discussion. And they can have opinions and thoughts and ideas. And one thing that iTunes U allows you to do is on the top left-hand side, there's a discussions panel here. Students can actually begin to discuss things. And there can be lots of different discussions that can go on, and people can kind of contribute and begin to kind of put ideas and stuff together, and you can begin to see different things. So the discussions become online. It's like a blog, but for each task. And it's private, and it's for your class. So if I kind of just go back to Learning Challenge 1, so that was our prior learning kind of video. So this is key in the way in which we kind of, begin to put things together. Let me just see if I can kind of get the explain everything thing back on. Let me see if that recording bit is going to work. No, it's not. It's giving me issues. Okay. So one thing that explain everything, what this allows me to do is it kind of allows me to draw on here. Okay. And without me having this all plugged in at the moment, it will record my voice as I'm writing and as I'm drawing. And then it will allow me to export it as a little video clip. Okay? If I was to go to my photos, let me see if I've got any here. So I've got this one that I did earlier on. It's just kind of a video clip. I've done these before. If I just hit play, let me see if this sound comes out of the iPad. Top, we're going to put it there. Take the number 2 on the top left-hand side, we're going to put it here. Okay. You add the 2 and the 3 together, the answer's... So this is a typical example of explain everything. I'm going to do a calculation to do with the 11 times table. Okay, so this is how we multiply by 11. We're going to take the number 23. We're going to multiply that by 11. We take the number 3 at the top, we're going to put it there. Take the number 2 on the top left-hand side, we're going to put it here. You add the 2 and the 3 together, the answer's 5. Put that in the middle. That's the answer. Okay? So that's the 11 times table. But apps like Explain Everything allow you to kind of create content like that with your voice. Where this becomes interesting in iTunes U is when we ask students to submit work back to us using this tool. So you give them a question, and they're actually scribbling things on the Explain Everything app, but they are using their voice to explain their working out and their thinking. That creates a greater level of cognitive demand in students. You can't just cut and paste. You've got to speak and explain what's going on. So you're developing the academic rigor, but you're also developing those CEO type skills, because I now have to present. I've got to be articulate. I've got to use the right kind of language that explains what I'm doing. Okay? If I just kind of come out of here, and let me go back to iTunes U. I'm going to go back here. We then have, so after prior learning, we have learning objectives, and then we've got a whole variety of different kind of tasks that teachers put together. Now, it's up to you how you design tasks. Tasks 1 and 2 might be the easy tasks that all students can complete. Tasks 3 and 4 may be kind of more challenging in ability. Tasks 5 and 6 kind of stretch students even more. And then you can kind of, ask students to complete tasks according to ability and so on. So all our courses kind of follow this format. Okay? What's interesting as well is if I kind of, let me look at this science one. Okay? So again, similar format, description, prerequisites. If I go to outline, I've got learning challenges and lessons there. If I kind of go to the prior learning assignment here, again, there's kind of video material and content that students can watch. And if I go to tasks, there's a whole bunch of different things that you're asking students to do. So this is very different from just having resources on a storage drive and you're just pointing students to resources. You're actually telling students what you want them to do. And within this, we've got Microsoft Office documents, PowerPoints, we've got Google Docs, Google Forms, we've got apps and videos and podcasts. It's a whole variety of different things that can be included here. Okay? So in this case, the teachers actually put on a Google Doc, which students can then kind of complete. They can go on there, it'll take them to the web, it will be asking them questions around this. They'll fill that in and submit that, and the teachers will actually get it. Okay? And let's just kind of go back here. I'm going to go to an instructor, the instructor mode. So let me just see what the connected. So these are kind of my courses as an instructor. So this is where I can edit my courses. So for example, if I was to go down and pull up this web course that's here, I can see discussions that my students have had. I've got 268 students that have subscribed to this course. Okay. I can see a whole bunch of things in terms of the students that have enrolled. If I want to block students, I can do that sort of stuff on here. I can see who the students are. I can see a whole bunch of things from here. But where this gets interesting is if I just kind of go to posts here now, I've got some additional buttons that have appeared. Because this is my course, I can now edit it. So if I was to go to task 1, and if I was to now edit this, at the bottom, I can now begin to add assignments. So if I was to add another assignment, can you see the options that it's giving me within iTunes U now? For each assignment, I could put a title in. Okay? So let me just say, discussing, even though this is nothing to do with English, I'm just going to say the periodic table because that's my subject. Okay? Description's optional. I can enable grading and give it point value and scores, and I can say, in this case, it's going to be out of 100. Students can hand work in here as well. So I'm enabling hand in as a teacher. But this is the bit that I think is really powerful. Watch this part. If I tap attach material, I can put existing videos. So remember that worksheet thing that I mentioned in my talk this morning? I can take a picture of a worksheet. If I was to tap on existing photo or video, I could just pick a photo of a worksheet that I've done and it will just kind of go in there. But we want to do things that are slightly different. We want to kind of go beyond that. So if I was to tap search store, this is now taking me somewhere else. So if I was to just type in periodic table and I hit search, It's going to search the entire iTunes library. If you look at the top there now, first and foremost, I'll tap on the App Store. So look, there's a whole bunch of free apps that I could use as part of my course. It's not costing me anything. And there's some reviews there as well, 3-star, 4-star, I could have a look at. If I type on music, not that you would want to listen to periodic table music, you know, but there's some stuff on there. We tend just to use free content rather than paid content. But look, there's podcasts. This is, the iTunes U is the largest repository of online education material in the world. And I now have access to it. So I could stick this podcast in. I'm going to do that. Okay? I'm going to add this thing about trends in the periodic table. So it's added that. I can also add books. I can add a whole bunch of other things that are in there as well. So look, it's put the podcast in, it's put a little icon for that, it's put the title and stuff in automatically. If I was to tap on I, it's just telling me that this is a K-12 kind of video, and I've added it today, and it's kind of on there. Dead simple. So for us, this is kind of a phenomenal resource that you can start putting together. So you're not just curating information, you're also collaborating on information as well. Okay? So this is something that has been kind of quite instrumental for us in the way in which we kind of create our courses and the way in which we do things. I'm hitting done, it's saving. Everyone that's subscribed to this course on their iPads, wherever they are in the world, they will pop up and tell them there's a new lesson now. And they're probably wondering why periodic table has popped up in an English course. Okay? So I'll delete that later on. Okay? The other thing is this. If I go to course settings, no, actually, if I go to enrollment, it generates a course code. That's the code that I give to people. They put it in the iTunes U app, and they've joined my course. We're not relying on usernames and passwords and logins and all that sort of stuff. That's unique to my course. Okay? Okay, I'm just going to come out of here. That's kind of a snapshot view of iTunes U very, very quickly. Alongside this, we're kind of using another app called Shobi. Now, many of you might be familiar with this, but this is something that you could pretty much start using immediately. But Shobi allows us to do assessment in greater detail. Okay? And it works in a very similar way. It doesn't allow us to design learning. So iTunes U has the power of designing learning, putting apps in and so on. But this gives us more freedom in the way in which we give feedback to students. Make sense? Okay? So look, this is a class that I'm in. And some of these are kind of test tutorials, things that I've done. But the Monday PM, Chili 3 Sopranos, that's a real class. I'm going to go in there. So it's a class that one of our music teachers is doing, but he's added me on. So you can have many teachers in one class as well. So you can share things and see things. And he's organized his, so he's got it by month. So I go January 15, and these are all the students that are in his class. Now, I love the simplicity of this, because look, I have a shared folder at the top, and I've got the student names right there. If I go to the shared folder, whatever I put in here, every student can see. And if I tap on the plus on the top right-hand side, I could take a picture with my camera, and if I did choose that, all the students sat in that class in school this morning will suddenly see you guys on a photograph. So we won't do that, okay? But I could have taken a picture of an image, a document, or something that students can see. And what this teacher's done is actually really interesting. He has shared the grading matrix that's used for this particular exam. Now that's used, like in terms of GCSE, it's used in our school. So students can kind of see this. But let me tell you where it gets interesting. And this is where I think tools are now beginning to change, and we can't afford to ignore this. So look at this. I'm going to come out of here. Let's just go to, I'm going to go to Zainab's, okay? So here's Zainab. There's voice notes. There's kind of feedback that's being given to students. There's a whole bunch of different things that are happening here. But where it gets interesting is when I open that progress tracker for Zainab. Oh, he's not done it for Zainab. Okay, let me just kind of come out of here. Let me choose a different one. Let me choose Ismail's. So here we are. He's marked this one. I can tell because there's a little red circle on it. You see that? Now look at this. This is great. She's not done brilliantly well in everything, but she's come out with the overall C. There's a little icon at the bottom right-hand side, which if I tap, oh, it's taking a while to catch up, but there's some focus on fluency, snap to reality, blah, blah, blah. He's kind of says given some feedback there. But where this gets really interesting is this. I can now kind of zoom in. On the top, I'm going to tap on the icon that's right there. I've just tapped to turn blue. So that's on. And now, here, for this particular circle, I'm going to tap there once and watch what happens. If I hit the record button now, I can speak into this and give more detailed feedback on that particular aspect. Okay? So I'll say that again, because I was away from the microphone. If I was to hit the record button, I can actually give detailed feedback on that particular aspect. That student will be able to hear my voice. They will be able to tell whether I'm disappointed, whether I'm happy. I might decide to give them a grade or a mark right at the end of my kind of sentence, so they have to listen to everything. But when we expose parents to this, and parents can listen to the teacher's feedback at home, suddenly the belief behavior thing begins to change a little bit. So look, it's fine if students have to write with pen to paper in an exercise book. In fact, many of our iTunes U courses will direct students to complete some activities in their books. Because in the UK, our final exams are still pen to paper. That's important. But for feedback, teachers are not carrying 30 books home. Students have taken a picture with their iPad and submitted that to Shobi. We can mark, we can give voice, we can give feedback. And depending on how you are inspected in the UK, we can kind of show, and I'm going to give you a word that I like to kind of use. If I just come out of that, I'll discard this. Okay? If I kind of come out of this, what I kind of would like to see is like the messiness of learning. You know, you set a task with a student, or you set a task for a class, and every student goes off in a different way. You know, someone's understood something, another person hasn't, someone improves what they've done, you've given feedback, but this allows us to kind of capture the beauty of what's going on. It's allowing us to measure progress and attainment and see the learning and see how well they've done and have they responded to the feedback and so on. And when kind of our inspectors come in, and in the UK, it's the good old Ofsted team that walk in, for the first time, they can actually see and hear what the teacher said 6 months ago and how good that feedback was. So for us, these two are key tools. Okay? Showbie with iTunes U. Okay? Showbie allows us to kind of, there's 3 areas that make a great educational experience: teaching, learning, and assessment. If you get those things right, you've got magic. If your organization understands the difference between these 3 things as well, it's great progress. There's a gap between teaching and learning. We have to appreciate the difference between the two. There's an element of teaching that's required. Learning is about measurement. Assessment is going to tell us how well students have done. Okay? So for us, these kind of 3 things are kind of allowing us to come together to do things that we couldn't do before. Okay? Is Veronica here? She's here. Sorry, Veronica, I've overrun into your time as well. But Veronica was doing a session on actually how to use iTunes U. How do you create a course? Okay? So I've asked her to kind of come in. So Veronica is part of the organization. I'm sure someone that you can kind of get a hold of as well. So I'm going to kind of pass over on to Veronica to do the hands-on. How do I start a course? What do I create? Where do I sign up? What do I need to do? And so on. Okay? I hope that's given you a kind of snapshot into what's possible. Okay? This is stuff you can go away and start doing immediately. iTunes U is free. There's no cost to it. It's only available to educators. Okay? So it's kind of worthwhile having a look at that in detail. Okay, thank you very much.